Hello everyone, welcome back to Gardening with the Landscape Connection. I am Michelle and I am in Northern Illinois, Zone 5. Welcome to my station. Today we are going to talk about perennials, and not just any old perennial. We are going to talk about high impact, low maintenance perennials. I have been collecting this list for a while, and as I get older, I'm looking for things to put in my garden that don't take so much fussing around. Not that I don't want to garden, because I do. I love to garden, but I can't fuss with everything. And it was the number one thing that I got asked. Well, maybe number two. Well, it's a close tie between what can I grow in the shade and what can I grow that's low maintenance. I say they're pretty neck and neck with how many people ask me that question. So I have come up with a list of my 8 favorites. Now, these are my 8 favorites, and these I have grown here in Zone 5, and they've done fabulous for me. You might have different conditions where you live, but maybe this will help you a little bit, maybe generate a list for yourself where you live. Because I kind of listed out what am I looking for in that low maintenance plant, and what do I want it to be if I'm going to call it high impact. So I've come up with a list. Now on this list, they don't have to hit every single thing, because very few plants will hit every single thing. I need them to hit about 2/3 of each of the lists to make the list. Now, again, this is not an all-inclusive list. I'm sure there's plenty of other things that are high impact, low maintenance. And you know what? Things that are that for me might not be for you, because you might have totally different growing conditions than I have. But I'm going to talk about the ones that I love, and so maybe it'll help you too. So what do you have to be low maintenance to make my list? Well, you got to be long-lived, okay? You can't puke after 2 or 3 years. You've got to keep on going and be long-lived, because I don't want to replace you. I need you to live for like 8, 9, 10 or more years. I also need you to be able to handle heat and humidity, because we have heat here and we have humidity. You know, yesterday it rained and we needed the rain so bad, but boy, did it push the humidity up. All of a sudden, we went from kind of dry heat to humid heat, and it is night and day difference between the two. And yeah, you got to be able to handle the heat and the humidity, because sometimes we can have humidity between 80, 90, 100%. And our heat, yeah, a lot of 80s, a lot of 90s, a few in the hundreds. But in Zone 5, you know, what did somebody tell me the other day? We have bipolar weather. I just cracked up. It was so funny. They're like, it like levels off for a minute, and then it goes really high or really low, and then it levels off for a minute, and then it goes really high and really low. And I was thinking of this year, and that we have bipolar weather this year in Zone 5 in Illinois. So I thought that was appropriate. Okay, back to my list. I went off on a rabbit trail. I need them to be cold hardy, so I need them to be able to make it through the cold winter. And in my area, that's -20 is the average low that we could get. I need them to be deer resistant, because I have a lot of deer pressure in my yard. And I know some of you want them to be rabbit resistant too. And some of these that I talk about are both. I have one on the list that's neither, but it makes a lot of other points on the list, so it makes the list. I need it to be resistant to disease and insects. I also want it to be non-invasive, so I don't want it taking over my world or the neighbor's world or the garden across the way. I just want it to stay where I put it. And then I want it to be drought tolerant. So that doesn't mean that I never have to supplement the water. It just means that I need it to be drought tolerant, to where I don't have to go out every day because it's wilting in the heat and I have to give it supplemental water. I need it to, you know, be drought tolerant, so it could go a couple weeks without water. Now, what do I need for it to be high impact? Well, it's got to have some multi-seasonal interest. It needs to look good in the spring. I want it to have some winter interest maybe if I leave it up. I want it to look good through the summer. I don't want to have to mess with it, cut it back, deadhead it. I don't want to do any of those things to make it look good. I just want it to look good. And then I want it to have a pretty long bloom time. Now, there's not a lot of perennials out there that have super long bloom times. Most of them average 3 to 7 weeks. Somewhere in there, so I'm pushing like on the longer end of that. There are a few out there though that will bloom all summer in my area, and I am going to talk about at least 2 of them. Then I want it to have outstanding texture, and I want it to have nice architectural form. So I want it to look good. So some of that has to do with the shape of the leaves or the structure of the plant and how it grows. And so I look at those things too. So as I said, they're not going to hit 100% of all of these traits, but it's going to hit a lot of them for me in my area. And again, this is not all inclusive, but maybe it's a starting point for you to maybe start making a list if you're looking for some of those things that are going to give you high impact, low maintenance. And I'm sure there's others, and there are shrubs, but today I'm just talking about perennials. So what is a perennial? It's that plant that you're going to put in the ground that's going to come back year after year after year. So let's start with my first one, right here. I know, here it is. This is Joe Pye Weed. There it is. Isn't it great? I just love Joe Pye Weed. Now here's a picture of the flowers, okay? Because it's not blooming yet, but isn't that great? These are going to grow in zone 2 through 9. So yes, talk about a cold hardiness. Absolutely can handle the cold in the winter. It's going to get 60 to 84 inches high, anywhere from 3 to 4 feet wide. They grow in the sun or part shade. Now these I have in part shade, and as you can see, they are reaching a little bit towards the sun. So full sun is better, but they will grow in the part shade. Now I like to call these 2-story plants. They're great in the back of a border, and if you have a 2-story window and you look out and you see these blooming in the distance, they look like purple clouds just floating along. They're so awesome. They are long-lived, they tolerate the heat and the humidity, they're cold hardy, the deer won't eat them, they're drought tolerant, they stay where you put them, beautiful flowers, great structure. So I mean, they hit a lot of the points on my list. And look at those flowers. Aren't those awesome? They attract butterflies. They'll grow in clay. So absolutely, I just think they're awesome. Pretty impressive, huh? So that's number 1, Joe Pye Weed. And let's see if I can say the Latin name without mutilating it. It's Epitatorium maculatum. I might have said it right. I don't know. I'm sure I'll get corrected if I didn't. So Joe Pye Weed, and the one that I have planted is called Gateway. So the next one we're going to talk about is Allium. So I'm going to turn the camera off and we're going to head over to a patch of Alliums. All right, number 2. These are Alliums. Now this is an ornamental onion, and this cultivar that I have growing here is called Millennium. There is another one called Summer Beauty, and I like that one too. And then Proven Winners puts one out called Serendipity. Now, I personally have never grown Serendipity, but I love these. They get these little billy balls on them. They are so beautiful. They're purple, and that is what the flowers look like when they're blooming. And so I just love these. This is one of those ones that the foliage always looks good. It's one of the early risers in the spring. And then as they're growing, they just grow into these nice compact clumps. And they have these nice, upright, tidy, narrow leaves. And they look so nice. They always look good. Then they're going to produce their little billy ball flowers. Now, the Summer Beauty, those bloom a little bit earlier. They'll start to bloom usually in July, and then they'll bloom for about 4 weeks, and they're more of a pink, whereas the Millennium are about 2 weeks behind them, so more like the end of July, beginning of August, and they're more of like a lavender purple. They are both deer and rabbit resistant, so I love that about them. And, you know, they'll grow in well-drained soil, but I have grown these in clay as well. They're a great butterfly attractor. They're going to get probably 15 to 16 inches tall and wide. They're going to grow in zone 5 through 8. And in the winter, we leave the foliage will die back, and then we'll just have the little billy balls left on there, and we spray paint them like gold and red and silver for Christmas colors, and then we string lights through the bottom of them, and they're part of our Christmas walk. So I just love these. They are so dependable, reliable, and then they are just gorgeous. And they are a great pollinator attractor. You'll always find bumblebees, butterflies on them, and they just hit so many things on the list. They are long-lived, they're heat and humidity tolerant, they're cold hardy, drought tolerant, they stay where you put them, they've got nice looking foliage, multi-season interest, so bam, 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 bam. Hit so many things on the list, they made it. Number 2, Alliums. Okay, so I just plopped my butt right down on the sidewalk here because right here behind me is number 3, and this is Baptisia, and this is the Australia, so it's the native, and this is false indigo. And I love these. They are big, they're impactful, they're beautiful. They get these beautiful spiky flowers, and I'm sorry, these are done blooming, but that's what the flowers look like on them when they're blooming. And there's all different kinds. There's Decadence, Vanilla Cream, Cherries Jubilee, Solar Flare. I just love them. They're going to grow in zones 3 through 9. You got to give them enough room to grow, though. They're going to get 3 to 4 feet high and wide. Now, they say they'll grow in part sun, but I find that just like the Joe Pye Weed, they'll stretch. So they really need full sun. They are deer resistant, and I'm telling you what, these are great clay busters. I grow these in the clay at my house. I have 2. I have one of just the regular Baptisia Australis, and then I have a solar flare, which is yellow, and they both do great. Now this one is an indigo. I think it's called Prairie Twilight. It's just absolutely gorgeous. And you know, when they grow, they get these seed pods on them. I don't know if you can see them. They've got these seed pods on them right here. And if you want to cut them back, you can, and then they'll flush back new foliage and they'll be smaller, but they look like this big bush, and then you just cut them back to the ground every year. Now, when I started this with a 1-gallon can, and they don't grow this big in 1 year. They are on year 3. Yeah, they're going into year 3. So think about it this way. First year sleeps, second year creeps, third year leaps. I learned that a long time ago. I think from my dad or something, told me that little like poem or something, and I just remembered it ever since. So it takes them 3 to 4 years to get this big. The other thing is, I know people have transplanted them, but for the most part, they really like to stay where you put them. So they don't like to be moved. But if you are going to transplant them, I think doing it in the fall would be the best. Cut them back and then dig them up and move them. But I, for one, always just make sure that wherever I put them, I just kind of keep them there so I don't move them. I'm going to not move myself. I'm going to stay right here. And the next thing I'm going to talk about is, I'm going to talk about Agastache. So this is, some people say Agastache. I'm not sure the right way to say it, but it's Anise Hyssop. And these are the blooms on there. And this one here is the one I'm going to talk about. There are other cultivars up there, but this is the one, as far as the high impact, low maintenance that I'm talking about, is Blue Fortune. This is an old favorite. It's been around for a long time. It's got a super duper long bloom time. They start blooming right around the end of June, and they really bloom until September. And they are a great attractor of all your pollinators, hummingbirds, bumblebees, butterflies. They all love this plant. It gets fairly tall, but like the Blue Fortune itself, right here is the flowers on there. Can you see that? Okay, they are both rabbit and deer resistant. They're long-lived, nice foliage on it, grows in zone 5 through 9. They get 2 to 3 feet high, 18 to 22 inches wide. They're very adaptable. They're a great cut flower, dried flower. Some people know it as hyssop, Anise hyssop, so it does have a little bit of a licorice smell, the leaf does to it, but I love that they have that beautiful long bloom time, and I love the lavender blue flowers on there. So this definitely makes my list. Number 4, Agastache. Number 3, I said that backwards, is my false indigo. So let's go on to number 5. We have to go over to the Hosta house. Okay, all you Hosta haters, plug your ears, because this part's not for you. But we have lots of Hosta lovers out there, and I am putting it on the list because it's my list. And I love Hostas, and they are long-lived. They do tolerate heat and humidity. They are cold-hardy. Now, I know they're not deer-resistant, and the rabbits will nibble on them, but there are so many other things that they hit on this list that they are making the list. They are non-invasive, at least in my area where I grow them. And I don't grow ground cover hostas. I grow the big, beautiful hostas that grow into great big giant ones. And they're drought tolerant. They have multi-season interest. They have colorful foliage. They're long-lasting blooms. They attract butterflies. Look at all the things that there is to love about them. They are so wide and varied. There are thousands of kinds of hostas. And I suggest you pick the ones you love and put one in your garden. They grow in the shade. Some of them are a little more sun tolerant than others. They have a really wide growing range from zone 3 all the way to 9. So what's not to love about a hosta? So you hosta haters, we'll just skip by. No bad comments below. Just pretend like you didn't hear this part. All right. But you can't have hostas on the list without having Brunnera on the list. So this is number 7, is Brunnera. In my area, Brunnera is very reliable, and it's absolutely gorgeous. It's another one that we're going to grow in the shade. We've got these beautiful heart-shaped leaves with the silver foliage and the dark green veining. Now, this is a Jack Frost cultivar, and it's the one that I've grown the most. I haven't grown a lot of the proven winners, Queen of Hearts, Queen of Diamonds, or Jack of Diamonds, Queen of Hearts. I haven't grown those yet. I'm having a hard time getting a hold of them, but I can't wait to get some to try it out. Now, this is going to grow in zones 4 through 9. They're going to get 12 to 15 inches high, 12 to 15 inches wide. And it will take 4 hours of sun, but it doesn't want to be in that hot afternoon sun. It will scorch the leaves. And the bonus with these is, you're growing it for the foliage, but you get the bonus blue flowers on there in the spring. And it's like a cloud of blue flowers all over. It's so gorgeous. So number 7 on my list is Brunnera. Long-lived, heat and humidity tolerant, cold hardy, deer resistant. is it deer or rabbit? I think actually it's more rabbit resistant than it is deer resistant. And I haven't had any deer eating on mine though, but I have had people tell me that the deer will nibble on them. It does have colorful foliage and it does have great textural interest. So this one makes the list as well. Brunnera, number 7. I obviously need help with my counting skills because I don't think that was 7. I believe, let's see, Pye Weed and Alliums were 1 and 2. Baptisia and the Agastache were 3 and 4. Hostas and Brunnera were 5 and 6. So yeah, I need help counting. So now I'm on number 7, which is a geranium or a cranesbill. This is the Rozanne geranium. It's my favorite geranium out there, although I'm starting to really like the Boom Chocolata. But for years and years and years, I have grown this one and I have had fabulous success with it. And if you're looking for a perennial that blooms pretty much all summer long, this is one of them. So it gets these beautiful, beautiful lavender blue flowers on it with the white center. And it's got these really pretty lobed leaves. And the leaves actually get fairly large. They can get like 2, 3, 4 inches across. So that's really nice. And then they get this red hue on them in the fall. So that's like another little added bonus. These start blooming in the middle of June and they really bloom, at least for me, all the way until the frost takes them out. So they're gonna get probably anywhere from 15 to 18 inches high, and I've seen these get 24 to 36 inches around, even though the tag doesn't say that. I think the tag says that they only get 18 inches across, but I've seen them get bigger. And I've grown these in clay, and I've grown them in morning sun and in part shade. So they've done well in both of those areas. They are long-lived, they're drought tolerant, they can handle the heat and the humidity here. They are deer and rabbit resistant, so that's like a little bonus. They have beautiful foliage. You get that red color in the fall. What's not to love about them? So if you want to add something to your list with a long bloom time, Rozanne geranium is definitely one to add. Okay, and the last one on my list, number 8. This is, let me see if I can make this be on my face. Okay, so this is Yarrow. Now this might not be for everybody because I think for some people in some areas, Yarrow can be invasive. For me, I have not had that problem. So it's on my list because it hits so many of the traits, but it might not for you. So just know that Yarrow can be invasive. So be careful if you choose to put this in your yard. So I want to just make sure y'all heard me say that. All right, so I'm going to lower it back down onto this one. Now this one we will be putting in our cottage garden, and this one here is the Summer Pastels. Now this one here looks more like it's light pink and dark pink, but Summer Pastels actually is a blend of yellow, whites, light pink, dark pink, and so I love them. This is going to be 24 to 30 inches high, 24 to 30 inches wide. They grow in full sun, and they are a clay buster, and they're going to bloom from June through September. So another one of those really long bloom times. I love the foliage on it. It's that beautiful, soft, ferny looking foliage. And I just think that they are durable. They're long blooming. They're drought tolerant. They do well in clay. They can handle the hot. They can handle the humidity. They can handle the dry too. So they grow in zones 3 through 8, and they do really well as a cut flower or a dried flower in the garden. Now I also have some more right here. These are the paprika right here, and these have been growing for a while, and so they are doing very well. And this is my patch right here of 3, and they haven't gone anywhere, so I'm pretty happy with that. Then I also, other side over here in the behind the coreopsis, right back there, that is my coronation gold, and it's 3 plants, and they're about as big as they're supposed to be, and they haven't gone anywhere. They stayed right where I put them. So for me, Yarrow makes the list. And my last one, number 9, is Nepeta. This is the Walker's Low Catmint, and I love it. The only thing I don't love about it is I can't grow it in clay. It wants really good draining soil, so I do have this in a raised bed. It's going to grow 18 to 24 inches high and wide, wants full sun, and it's blooming from June through August. This is one of the earlier bloomers. It's got a great smell to it. It attracts all the pollinators. It can handle anything from dry, hot conditions. It's got this beautiful kind of gray-green foliage on it. It's a great ground cover planting. You can put it in the front of the border. You can use it like I have right here in the middle of the border to attract all the pollinators. So that way they come up to my herb garden up here, and it just hits a lot of notes on my high maintenance, low, or not high maintenance, high impact, low maintenance list. So Nepeta, and I like them all. I like the Kit Kat, I like the Junior Walker, the Walker's Low Catmint, I like the ones from Proven Winners, the Cat's Pajamas and the Cat's Meow. So they all make the list for me. I love this stuff. So that is my list of high impact, low maintenance plants. I want them to be long lived. I want them to tolerate heat and humidity, be cold hardy, deer resistant, resistant to disease and insect, non-invasive, and drought tolerant. I want them to hit 2/3 of that list. For high impact, I need them to have multi-seasonal interest, colorful foliage, long-lasting blooms, a nice architectural form, and great outstanding texture. So for me, those are the 9 that I love, that I've had experience with, and here in Zone 5 have done fabulous for me. So thank you so much for watching. I hope this helped you and maybe make your own list, or maybe find a few that you yourself can grow. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video.